Hi class, it's Miss Pebworth, and I was just out here digging in my yard and I wanted to share this with you. Look at this. Okay, so I was digging down here and look what I found. It's like a bone buried in the ground. And so I'm wondering, could it be a dinosaur? Do you think there's a dinosaur buried right here in my yard? Oh my gosh, that would be so interesting. So this week we are going to be reading about dinosaurs. We're going to be reading a biography. If you can't remember, a biography is a true story about a real person. So this was a real person that used to be alive, and she found a real dinosaur. So let's read all about it. We're reading in our Journeys book, and we are on page 423. 423. This week our story is The Dog That Dug for Dinosaurs. The dog that dug for dinosaurs. Ooh, I should go get Lily. I wonder what she would do with this bone in my yard. Maybe at the end of the story, if we can, I'll get her out here and we'll see what she does. The Dog That Dug for Dinosaurs, page 423. Get your book out, be ready to read along. A long, long time ago, there was a little dog named Trey. He was black and white all over. He had friendly brown eyes and a very wiggly tail. Trey lived in England. Trey was a real dog, and this is an honestly true story about him. Trey loved two things most in the whole world. First, he loved Mary Awning. She was 12 years old, and she lived with her family in a small cottage near the beach in Lyme Regis. Secondly, Trey loved going with Mary to dig for fossils. We're on this page over here, page 425. So what are fossils anyway? They are the remains of animals and plants that died a long time ago. When a leaf or a bone gets pressed between many layers of sea mud, it leaves an imprint. After many years, the mud hardens to rock. It says many years, it really means like millions of years. So you have to sit around for a few million years twiddling your thumbs. You can come back for a fossil. Next page, page 426. Trey and Mary knew that they would find the very best fossils high up on the cliffs around the beach. They climbed up there every day. Trey sniffed the rocks, sniff, sniff. He pawed the dirt, scratch, scratch. And Mary used a small hammer and chisel. She'd kind of hammer and chisel away. Tap, tap, tap. With these tools, Mary carefully cut fossils out of the cliff, just as her father had shown her. Trey watched as she placed the fossils in her basket. Most of them looked like seashells. Mary and Trey sold them as souvenirs to the tourists that came by on a stagecoach to swim at the beach near their home. Page 427. One day, Trey and Mary discovered some very large bones sticking out of the rocks. They were huge. Trey growled and he tried to dig the bones out. Mary used her hands to brush away the loose dirt. "Trey, we've discovered a monster," she declared. The bones were much too big for Trey and Mary to remove by themselves. "I'll go for help," Mary said. "You stay here, Trey." Trey barked loudly and sat down in front of the bones. He was a very good guard dog. Okay, turn the page. We're on page 428 now. Mary ran all the way back to town and asked for some grown-ups to help her. "Trey and I have found something very special on the cliff," she told them. "Just wait and see." When the men saw the giant rib bones on the side of the cliff, they were amazed. "What a beast!" they cried. "Look at those sharp teeth. Is it a crocodile?" one man asked. "Or a stubby whale?" "We don't know what it is," Mary admitted, "but we do know that it's something special. Don't we, Trey?" Trey yipped and wagged his tail. A rich man who lived nearby heard about the sea monster. He hurried to see for himself. "I'll buy it," he cried. "I will give it to the British Museum in London." "Do you know what it is?" Mary asked. "It's called an ichthyosaur." Ichthyosaur, the man told her. "That means fish lizard," he explained. "It's like a dinosaur with fins." Page 430. On this page, page 430. The amazing news spread about the gigantic fish lizard and the dog and the little girl who had found it. Soon many strangers came to Lyme Regis, where Mary and Trey lived. They all wanted to hunt for fossils too. The men wore tall top hats. The women wore frilly bonnets. They carried pretty umbrellas called parasols. Mary shook her head and smiled. She rubbed Trey's soft ears. She watched the strangers together. "They don't have the right tools," Mary whispered. "They're all wearing the wrong kinds of shoes, aren't they, silly Trey?" Trey yipped and chased his tail. Next page, page 432. Curious scientists visited Lyme Regis too. One man came from the university in Oxford. His name was William Buckland. He went to the old carpenter's shop where Mary and Trey sold their fossils. "Can you show me where you found your ichthyosaur, young lady?" he asked politely. "Do you think you could find the exact spot again?" "Trey can find it," Mary boasted. Together, Mary and Mr. Buckland followed the little dog across the cliffs. On page 433. Together, Mary and Mr. Buckland followed the little dog across the beach and up the cliffs. Trey sniffed the rocks. Sniff, sniff. He pawed at the dirt. Scratch, scratch. And suddenly he yipped. Then he sat down. Mary pointed. It was the exact place where she had discovered the strange fish lizard. "What an intelligent dog," Mr. Buckland declared. Trey wagged his tail. Page 434. Next page. Trey and Mary continued to dig for fossils. They were very careful. Mary watched for falling rocks like her dad told her. Trey looked out for storms and high tides. Then one day, they discovered another giant creature. "Look, Trey," Mary cried. "Is it a sea dragon?" Trey sniffed the skeleton and snapped at it with his teeth. The creature had a long, long neck. Its backbone was like a humped turtle shell. Instead of feet and legs, it had 4 large paddles. But it wasn't a sea dragon. Mr. Buckland called it a plesiosaur. So when you are reading this, you'll see that it's written, and then in parentheses it tells you how to pronounce it. So that's how I know how to pronounce it. It's plesiosaur. Page 436. One day, Trey and Mary found a fossil that no one in England had ever found before. This one had huge bony wings like a bat and a long, sharp jaw. Trey growled. "It looks like a gigantic flying lizard," Mary declared. The scientists thought so too, and that's why they named it the pterodactyl. That means lizard with wings. Over the years, Trey, Mary, and Mr. Buckland became good friends. They showed him where to find the best fossils in Lyme Regis. Page 437. Mr. Buckland brought some books about dinosaurs for Mary. He brought beef bones for Trey. Mary, with Trey on her lap, studied her books every day. When Trey's whiskers turned to gray and Mary was all grown up, they still collected fossils and sold them in the old carpenter's shop. There were boxes and baskets filled with fossils on the floor and the shelves. Some of the fossil creatures were so big they couldn't fit through the door. Sometimes children and tourists stopped in to buy the fossils of ancient sand dollars or tiny fish and curly shells. Many of the scientists came to the shop to buy fossils too. They brought cartons and wagons to haul away the really large ones. Page 438. Trey and Mary Awning became very famous. Today, if you go to the Natural History Museum in London, you can see the large fossils they discovered together. You can also see a famous painting of Mary holding her fossil basket, and of Trey, the dog that dug for dinosaurs. Remember, this is a biography, so it's a true story. There really was Mary Awning and her dog Trey, and they really did find lots of fossils. So this is a really interesting biography. So now, what do you think about this bone in my yard? Do you think that my dog Lily might like to find it? Let's see. Let's see it again. Look at it. Here it is, buried down in the dirt. Maybe if I set the camera right up here, I can go get Lily and we can see how she would react here. Let me see. There's the bone. Okay, let me go get my dog Lily, okay? And then maybe we can see how she reacts to this. Lily, thanks. Okay, class. There's Lily. Let's see what she does. I have to get our leash longer. What's this, Lily? What's this? What's this? What's that? Is that a dinosaur bone? What is this? What is this? What is this, Lily? I don't know. She doesn't seem very interested. Lily, is that a dinosaur bone? Is it a dinosaur bone? What is it? Oh well, Maybe I don't have as smart of a dog as Mariani had. Maybe she's not a dinosaur dog like Trey was. So bye class, happy dinosaur week.